What am I supposed to do with my life? You ever ask yourself that question? What am I supposed to do with my life? Not what should I be doing with my life, but what's the thing that I should be doing with my life? Hey, if we haven't met, I'm Jason Haubner. I lead the Crossroads community at downtown Lexington, and I've worked with middle schoolers and high schoolers and college students now for about 9 years. And man, every single one that I've come in contact with is asking themselves some version of that question. What am I supposed to be doing with my life? I think it's a question we all wrestle with. I think it's a question that it's valid, and you should probably have an answer to that, or at least strive for one. I think we all want to live a life that's worth living. We want to live a life that when we look back, there's hardly any regrets. What am I supposed to do with my life? There's a lot of questions you could ask that might help you. What are you passionate about? Maybe that'll help you get there. What does the world need? Maybe that'll help you get there. What are you really, really good at? I think those are all great questions to help you figure out what you're supposed to be doing with your life. I want to give you one more. It's a little unorthodox, I know it is. I think you should be asking yourself the question, what do I hate? Now, I know we're in church and you're not supposed to say that word, and it's scary. But I think you're going to get a lot of ground asking yourself the question, what do I hate? Let me give you some examples. Maybe this will be helpful, maybe not. Here are a few things that I hate, right? Because I want to have an impactful life, and so I need to figure out what I hate. Here's some few things that I hate. I hate baseball. Stupid sport. If you need 150 games to stay relevant, honestly, we can do fine without you. I was a server for a while, but I hate when I order ranch and you bring me blue cheese. I can't stand that. That's not the same. And no, I don't want Pepsi. Thank you. I do. I hate being late. I hate when I wake up and I know 4 other people in the house woke up before me and there's no coffee. What were you doing that early? Make some coffee. How do you train your kids to make coffee? Gosh, I want to read that book. I hate a lot of things. We can talk about the things that I hate all night long, but I think that there's some things universally that you and I probably hate just as much. And I hate it, honestly, way more than blue cheese. I hate poverty. I hate oppression. Can't stand it. I hate racism. I'm so mad that exists in our society. I hate when people are taken advantage of. And I think that I would argue that no matter where you come down on blue cheese, you probably resonate with the things that I really hate in my life. You probably hate those things too. What is it about society? What is it about why do we all hate certain things? Why do we all hate oppression? Why do we all hate someone being taken advantage of? I could tell you a bunch of different things. Here's the real reason why I think that we all universally hate some things in this world. And I think it's important that we talk about this because I believe that God hates those things as well. I believe that we are created in the image of God. That God created us, and when he was forming us, he made us in his likeness. That you and I, imperfectly, are like God in many, many, many ways. That when God was creating your heart, he formed it like his heart so that your heart breaks for things that God's heart breaks for too. My heart notices things that are wrong in this world. I think that God's heart breaks when he sees poverty and oppression and slavery and racism in this world. And I think that's why my heart breaks too. And so I think that when you're thinking about how do I live a successful life, how do I live a life that's worth living, I think you and I should be talking about the things that are breaking God's heart in this world. If you and I want to make an impact with our life, what are we fighting against in this world? Are we sitting on the bench, watching just kind of the world take place and assuming that we don't have a role in it? Or are we asking ourselves the question, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And is there something that you hate or annoys you a little bit more or just rubs you the wrong way, kind of more than everyone else around you? And maybe that's the thing that you're supposed to be chasing after. Maybe that's the thing you're supposed to be dedicating your wallet to and your time to and your thought to. What if deciding what you hate will lead you to where God wants you to be? You know, I hate a lot of things. We kind of talked about them, some more than others. One of the things I hate most in this world is people who settle for less than what God has for them. For some reason, I just can't stand apathy, settling with, well, it's pretty good. My life is okay. Man, I don't want a life that's just okay. I don't think you do either. I think we want a life that's next level, that leaves a legacy that our kids talk about. I hate when people just settle for cozy comfort instead of maybe the adventure that God has for them. I hate when people settle. And so my wife and I, we have dedicated most of our lives to working against and showing people the joy that you and I can get with a relationship with God. I don't think this whole God thing is a ticket to heaven. I don't. That's great and all, but I'm not looking forward to heaven at all. I have real joy here on earth. I can experience God in new and amazing ways right here on earth. So heaven is going to be great, I'm sure, but I don't care about that. I'm not trying to tell people about God so they have a ticket to heaven. I'm telling people about God because there's real joy and peace and healing that can happen right here on earth. And so my wife, this looked like her being a teacher. And she kind of worked that tension of, how do I honor God and show these students who God is with how I act, and how do I also not break the law? It's a tough tension. I'm not saying it isn't, but man, there were kids in her class that experienced God like they'd never experienced before because my wife was faithful in the role that she was in. In the same way, right now, we are launching a brand new site, Crossroads site, on the campus of University of Kentucky. It's gonna be incredible. It's opening, yes. And when I say we, I don't mean myself and my family. I mean we, because this is a collective effort of people's faithfulness willing to step out and invite God into the dark places of the world. And UK is one of those battlegrounds where we now get to tell people about Jesus in a loving way in a brand new place. And so my wife and I, we moved down to Lexington about a year ago. We're launching August 26th, and so now we're building teams, and we're kind of taking steps, and we're building a culture down there to be just like you guys, to be a Crossroads site, and it's going to be amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm so excited about it. I am excited about it, and it's super easy for me to come up on stage and say, hey, I hate these things. It'd be easy for you too. I could stop the service, give you a pen and paper. You could write down probably 15 things that you hate in this world. And that's maybe not a bad thing to do, but let me tell you something, that's not going to be a helpful thing to do. Because we probably all hate different things and different levels, and we could talk about what you hate, what I hate, but the fact of the matter is to fight against evil in this world is not easy. Let me tell you about a time about 4 months ago, we had moved down, we had been in Lexington for about 8 months, and really the whole burden of the responsibility is kind of put on top of me because I want to be a really good husband. I don't want to be average. I want to be a great husband. And I want to be a really good father. I don't want to be average. I want to be a really good father. And not only that, I want to start a Crossroads site and tell more people about the freedom that's available with God. And so I want to build teams. And so there was all this kind of pressure and responsibility that was piling up on top of me. And honestly, in a moment of sincerity, I kind of broke. I was overwhelmed with this fear of responsibility. It manifested a whole bunch of different ways. I was less efficient at work than I should have been. I was apathetic in things I shouldn't have been apathetic by. The very thing that I thought I hated in this world was becoming true about my life because it was hard to lean in when times were tough. I remember my wife went on this trip. She flew to Arizona, and she was flying back, and I just had a really low point, and I was just looking for a way out, and I was looking for a way to kind of be free of my responsibilities. I didn't want to quit, but I didn't want to fail, and so I was kind of in that tension. I was like, what if something happened to me really terrible, and I wouldn't have to follow through on my responsibilities? And so for a moment, I thought, man, maybe my wife's plane will crash. And then maybe Crossroads wouldn't ask me to do the thing that I asked them if I could do. Maybe my teammate would be taken forever from me, the woman I love, the mother of my kids. And then I wouldn't have to bear the burden of my responsibilities. It's not easy being on the front lines. It's not easy making a difference. I think it's worth it, but it's not easy. And so, man, in that kind of low moment, in that hard place, I knew that I needed God to get me out. And so I remembered the thing that I hate. I hate when people settle for less than what God has for them. Not because it's easier, but because my life will have way more value if I lean into what God has for me. My life will be an adventure worth living if I lean into what God wants me to do, if I live the way that God wants me to live, if I act the way that God wants me to act, if I do the things that God has put in front of me with faithfulness as best I can, I believe that my life will be worth imitating, that my kids will be proud of me, and my wife will be proud of me. And so I had to walk away from the fear of responsibility. I had to lean into who I believe God made me to be, somebody that hates people who settle for less than what God has for them. And so, man, I had to confess that to friends. I had to confess that to my wife. And now I just believe that God has amazing things in store for Lexington because of my wife and I's faithfulness. I believe that God has amazing things for Lexington because of your faithfulness and the faithfulness of the team down there. And I don't want to be robbed of seeing the amazing fruit that's going to come from that because I froze with fear. And so, friends, I believe that God has a life for you. An amazing adventure for you, that you are uniquely, there's something kind of in your heart, just something that rubs you the wrong way that is going to take you to the next level with your relationship with God. And we've got to ask ourselves, man, what is the thing that we hate most in this world? And I think you need to ask yourself that, but it's not enough to just know what it is that you hate, what it is that you're supposed to be doing. We have to learn to solve it. And so I'll tell you right now from the bottom of my heart, hate is a great way to figure out maybe what you're supposed to be working on or what you're wired to fix in this world, but hate is a terrible fixer of that problem. We cannot operate in hate. Hate is not the execution. Hate is not gonna fix anything. Love is. Man, it's not enough to just hate something. Imagine my marriage, and I wanna have an amazing life with my wife, and I hate fighting with my wife. I'm sure you do too. I hate fighting with my wife. Imagine if I responded with hate to that. What would that solve? It would do nothing but dig us deeper. Imagine if I hated poverty and it looked like me hating people who were in poverty. What would that look like? That's gonna solve nothing. Hate always brings destruction. Hate always brings suffering. Hate always brings pain. No, friends, hate is a great tool to see what it is in this world that isn't right, that breaks God's heart, but love is the tool that's gonna solve it. We've gotta respond in love. Dr. King, with all that he had been through and all that he had said and all that he had done, Dr. King said this: darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. You see, I think that there's things in this world that you and I hate because I believe that God hates those things as well. I believe that God hates things in this world. It's in the Bible. If you go to Proverbs 6, these are the things that God says that he hates. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush to evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Is that what you expected the top 7 to be? I did not. Man, I expected, you put poverty, oppression, slavery. Those things have gotta break God's heart, right? And I think they do, but what's amazing to me is when I look at the 7 right there, man, I'm guilty of at least 3 of those this week. And what's amazing is that when God looked at me and he hated the things that I was doing this week that were lying and causing trouble in my community, lying about others, he didn't respond to me with hate. No, he responded to me with love and forgiveness and mercy, and that brought me joy and peace and love. If we are gonna experience everything that God has for us, we cannot respond in hate. We've gotta be like God, and we've gotta respond in love. Hate cannot drive out hate. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only love can. Dr. King said one more thing. I have decided to stick with love because hate is too great a burden to bear. Man, hate causes conflict. Hate causes strife. Love brings joy. Love brings peace. Love brings forgiveness. You imagine Martin Luther King and all that he'd been through. Man, if there was any man that was worthy, especially with how his life ended, if there was any man that was like, okay, I could understand why he responded with hate, but he took a stand and he said, man, no, we can't move. I cannot respond to their hate with hate. I've got to respond with love. Because he saw a future in America that was more beautiful than the current present. And so you and I, friends, if you want to see a future in your life that is better than the present, we have got to respond in love. Hate may be the quickest way to identify evil, but love is the quickest way to eliminate it. So my question to you is, what do you hate? What is it specifically that you hate? What are some things that you can't stand? Maybe it is poverty. And so what would it look like to respond to the poverty in your city with love? Where should you be spending your time? Where should you be spending your money? Man, it's not enough to just say that we hate something, man. Is there evidence in the past year of doing anything about it? Because if not, all we're doing is responding with hate. All we're doing is just fueling the hate instead of responding and solving with love. Maybe you hate that some kids are at a disadvantage for others. What does it look like for you to step into that, to lean into that, to bring love to kids who don't have someone to love them, to care for them? I volunteered with students for a long time, and at one of the camps that we did, there was this girl, and she just loved camp. Very excited, always joyful. Second day, she just loved camp more than everyone else. So one of the leaders asked her, say, hey, why do you love camp so much? Like, what is it that's so excited about camp? And she said, well, last night was the first night that I slept all the way through the night, knowing that someone wasn't going to come into my bed and hurt me. Was there any question that any volunteer or leader at that camp went to sleep that night and wondered, I wonder if my life is making any difference? No, absolutely not, because everyone there created a loving, safe environment for that girl to be able to be at peace, even for a little bit. She got the help and the support that she desperately needed because people responded with love. Maybe it's you hate that there's a stigma against mental health in this world. Maybe you hate that there's a stigma against depression. Maybe you can't stand that people are addicted to substances and you're not going to stand for it anymore and you're willing to fight for their freedom. What is it that you hate? But it's not enough to hate. What is it that you hate that you can respond to in love? What's the next step of love in your life? So friends, if you want to live an impactful life, a life that matters, a life that your kids talk about, it's not enough to just hate the things in the world. It's not enough to just notice them. How do we take a step toward solving them in love? Thanks for your time.